are you going to go when you die? I don't know. I'm not here to answer that question. How old are you? Jacqueline, I hope that's asked in the nicest of ways, but I don't actually share my age, so it's up for you to guess. I don't share a lot of details about me because I am the means of providing historical information and content for you. If you like what you're listening to, if you like what you're learning about, consider liking and subscribing, and that's how you become a friendly neighborhood historian. 9/11 was around when I was alive. There you go. So I'm above 23. Hi, good to see you. I'm doing well, Henning. I'm just glad that you're here. How are you? Texas Repo is asking, do you think the U.S. should take back the Panama Canal that Jimmy Carter sold for $1? Panama was a city founded by the Spanish in the region between Central America and South America, and the land that is Panama was controlled by the country of Colombia for the longest time. The English privateer, Captain Morgan, I believe it was Captain Morgan or Francis Drake, destroyed the city of Panama, and that's where the name of the land comes from. But basically, in the 1890s, the Panamanians were revolting against the Colombians. They had always considered themselves a distinct people who wanted their own country. And the U.S. backed up their revolution in 1903 with President Teddy Roosevelt. And in exchange, they allowed the U.S. to build and own and operate the Panama Canal. 5,000 Americans died during the building, not 38,000 like Donald Trump said. The French had tried to build it before, and it just never had worked. So in 1914, the canal opened, and for 65 years, the U.S. had been in control before President Carter decided to give it back to the Panamanians because he wanted to give them the idea of self-determination. He didn't want to monopolize the control. He didn't want to have a colony, and it was expensive. So Jimmy Carter gave it back for $1, and at the end of 1999, at the end of the millennium, the Panama Canal reverted back to the control of Panama. But really, the Panamanians never controlled it, and the truth of the matter is there is no Panama without the United States. So that creates a complexity of issues surrounding Panama's autonomy and the autonomy of the Panama Canal. The basic idea is that that became popular after World War II is that all waterways should be open to everyone no matter what, and not at the distinction of one country to control. So the British had controlled the Suez Canal for decades, but when Egypt gained its independence under Gamal Nasser in 1956, the French and Israelis and British tried to retake the canal, and the Egyptians kicked them out. So based off of that model, the canals of the world should be open, at least this is the idea, coming from the Suez Canal crisis of 1956, that the canals of the world should be open to as many people as possible and to as many countries as possible. So that was the idea behind Jimmy Carter giving back the Panama Canal to the Panamanians. The canal wouldn't exist without the United States. Panama would not exist without the United States. So I think the U.S. should have some say in it, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they should run it. So I'm just giving you the history there. But yeah, hopefully you enjoyed that. Let's see here. Jesse. Bush lied about WMD and 9/11. We lost $2 trillion and we could not be found. He knew they had oil in the Middle East. Yeah, there's a lot of speculation about why the Bush administration went into Iraq. Some believed it was finishing his father's war in overthrowing Saddam Hussein because his father, George H.W. Bush, had also been president and had also gone to war in Iraq in the early 90s. It had been successful, but he hadn't gotten rid of Saddam. The basic truth of the matter is Saddam Hussein had been defanged. He wasn't nearly as dangerous as he had been in the past. And just threatening to use chemical weapons didn't mean he was going to use chemical weapons, and he didn't even have chemical weapons or other weapons of mass destruction, as the U.S. invasion found out. So it was then hundreds of thousands of Iraqis died in the crossfires of this war, and of course thousands of Americans died, and regime changes in the Middle East have not been favorable to the United States, starting with the Shah in 1979, the Taliban in 2001, and Saddam Hussein in 2003. And it didn't get any better with Libya and Muammar Gaddafi or those issues, so who knows what will happen in Syria. But the U.S. should learn to stop getting involved in Middle East regime changes. They should let what happens. If my grandma eats 20 toasters, how many giraffes do I walk to the moon? I don't know, but that sounds like every question in every math book ever, so thanks for reminding me of that. Name 3 floods in one empire. 3 floods in one empire. 3 floods in one empire. Well, there are many floods that are caused by tsunamis. So there's the Indonesian one. There's a lot of flooding in India. And Indian Empire. There you go. The Mughal Empire. There you go, Jacqueline. If you like history, yes, so Spartacus is absolutely right. Spartacus is a friendly neighborhood.